It's 6 o'clock, so I'd like to call this meeting to order. It's January 14th. It's the first meeting of the year, so it's our organizational meeting. So could we call the roll, please?
Actually,
We got to do the oath of office first. I'm sorry. So we have two people who have been reelected, and we have our newest board member, Mindy Patrick, who's being sworn in for the first time. So if we could have the oath of office for Mr. Bartz first.
Where do you want me?
Kevin, where do you want it?
Yeah, usually.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ready? I state your name.
I, Roger Bart,
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio.
Put your volume on.
And I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties as a member of the Board of Education and for the said Olentangy Local School District, Delaware County, Ohio, to the best of my ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereinafter to be enacted during my continuance in said office until my successor is chosen and qualified.
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks for not letting me remember.
Next,
Roger, can I get a chance?
we gonna sign something? And then next we have Mr. Kevin O'Brien.
Raise your right hand. I state your name.
Kevin O'Brien?
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties as a member of the Board of Education in and for the said Olentangy Local School District, Delaware County, Ohio, to the best of my ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during my continuance in said office until my successor is chosen and qualified.
I do.
And next we have our newest member, and we welcome her warmly to the board, Mrs. Mindy Patrick.
Raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Mindy Patrick,
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties as a member of the Board of Education in and for said Olentangy Local School District, Delaware County, Ohio, to the best of my ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during my continuance in said office until my successor is chosen and qualified.
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I just want to point out, Mindy's been busy already. She spent last weekend at the Ohio School Boards Association new member training, and we appreciate her going through that training because it's a great program to go to, but you have to devote your time to it. And so she's already been doing great things for us, so we greatly appreciate that.
Thanks for sending me.
Yes, yes. Okay, now we can get the meeting started, and would you please call the roll?
Mr. Bartz?
Here.
Mr. King?
Here.
Mr. O'Brien?
Here.
Mrs. Patrick?
Here.
Mrs. Fiesel?
Here. Please stand and join us in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next up on our organizational meeting, we have to approve tonight's amended agenda. So I have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Go. I'll second.
Any discussion? We just had to make changes. There was an inappropriate title in a couple of the places, so that's why it's an amended agenda. Please call the roll.
Mr. Bartz?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mrs. Patrick?
Yes.
Mrs. Fiesel?
Yes. Next up, we have the election of officers for this school year. So I would like to take a nomination for president for the school board for 2016. Do I have any nominations?
I'd like to nominate Mr. David King.
Any other nominations? Seeing none, I will close the floor for nominations. So we need to vote to close nominations.
Um,
So can we vote to, we need a motion to close the vote to nominate.
I'll make a motion to close the
Yep.
vote.
Do I have a second? I'll second. Yep. Call the roll, please.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mrs. Fiesel,
Yes.
Mr. Bartz,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mrs. Patrick.
Yes. And now we will have the oath of office for our board president.
So we have to vote first.
Now we just closed the nominations, now we have to vote. Okay, voting on Dave King as president for the 2016 school year, or 2016 year. Do I have a motion?
I don't think we need a motion, right? We just need to vote?
Yeah, I do need a motion.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. My bad.
Second.
I'll make the motion. Fine.
Second,
I'll second.
call the roll, please.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mrs. Patrick,
Yes.
Mr. Bartz,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mrs. Fiesel.
Yes. Now if you could offer the oath of office for Mr. King.
I state your name.
I, David King,
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties as the President of the Board of Education and enforce said Olentangy Local School District, Delaware County, Ohio, to the best of my ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during my continuance in said office until my successor is chosen and qualified.
I do.
Congratulations.
And now I will open it up for nominations for vice president for 2016. Any nominations? I would like to nominate Mr. Roger Bartz.
And I'll-
Anyone else?
Oh, I can't second
Yep.
it yet, can I?
I am hearing no other nominations. I'd like to close nominations. Do I have a motion to close nominations?
I'll move.
And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Now.
Vote to close nominations.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mrs. Patrick,
Yes.
Mr. Bartz,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mrs. Fiesel.
Yes. Now we will vote on making Mr. Roger Bartz the vice president for this 2016. Do I have a motion for voting on the vice president? I've already nominated.
Okay, I'll move then. Sorry.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Patrick seconds.
Call the roll. Mr. King?
Yes.
Mrs. Patrick?
Yes.
Mr. Bartz?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mrs. Fiesel.
Yes. And now we will have the oath of office for Mr. Bartz. Dave.
I state your name.
I, Roger Bartz,
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and I will faithfully and impartially discharge my duties as Vice President of the Board of Education and enforce said Olentangy Local School District, Delaware County, Ohio, to the best of my ability and in accordance with the laws now in effect and hereafter to be enacted during my continuance in said office until my successor is chosen and qualified.
I do. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Congratulations. We have a number of board action items which I'll introduce. A is the schedule of the board meetings for 2016, and hopefully everybody's had a chance to read through that schedule. As a reminder, it's not so set in time that because somebody's business commitment or a vacation opportunity, whatever the case might be, we can always change a date. Obviously, there's a time to do that within a certain amount of time for public announcement. But have you had a chance to take a look? Any questions on the schedule?
The only meeting that I wanted to ask about was the March meeting, because it's not the 2nd or the 4th of March, the 2nd or 4th Thursday of March. It's the 3rd, and that's when we have the Career Center school board meeting.
Oh, okay.
What's the date what's the primary date?
Oh,
15th?
the primary date is the 15th that's a Tuesday.
So I'd prefer to have it, if we're gonna move it, I'd like to move it after that.
After the primary?
Yeah.
So 15th, 16th, so it'd be the 17th, right?
17th.
I do March.
17th.
St. Patrick's Day.
Mindy, does that sound good to you?
I have nothing else to do that day.
Yeah.
I'm good.
So-
Yeah.
Yeah,
May not be here.
okay. Any other dates that jump out at somebody?
No, everything else looks fine.
Okay. Well, we might as well do this individually because we have names and everybody. So can we have a motion to approve the board meeting schedule then, item A? Motion a second?
So moved.
Second.
Second?
Call the roll, please. Brian?
Mrs. Fiesel,
Yes.
Mr. Bart,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mrs. Patrick,
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes. That passes 5-0, thank you. Item B, under board action, reestablishing the board committees and approving committee leadership and members. This is our liaison as well as the actual committees. If everybody had a chance to take a look at that while you're perusing your paper there, I'll point out that our liaisons, oh, I'm sorry, that's later. So this is strictly the board committees, which is listed on your Exhibit B, Business Advisory Committee, Facilities Committee, Finance and Audit, Policy, School Advocacy Committees, their chairs and membership. Any questions? A motion and a second, please.
I'll move to accept as listed.
I'll second.
Any discussion further? If you would, please, Brian.
Mr. Bartz,
Yes.
Mrs. Patrick,
Yes.
Mrs. Fiesel,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes, that's 5-0 pass. Item C is to appoint a board member to serve on the Delaware Area Career Center Board of Education for a 3-year term beginning this January. And we're suggesting that, and she's of course willing again, that would be Julie, Ms. Fiesel. The motion to accept item C. In a second?
I'll move.
Second?
I'll move. Second.
Any discussion?
So we can appoint you to a 3-year term even though you've only got 2 left here? So what would happen in the
Yes,
third year?
there's a new law that was enacted several years ago that changes the terms of the length of the school board members for Delaware, for career centers. And so now, even after I would leave this board, I could still be on that board as a member representing this school board. In fact, that's how Big Walnut's representative is right now, and Delaware City, the person who just went off, that's how his, because they don't match up anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So that's how it is.
And could you re-up again after that or no?
For the Career Center?
Yeah.
Yes, that's the other crazy thing about the new law. And there's a whole history behind it. But yes, you do not necessarily have to be a sitting school board member. You just have to be a representative of the school board to be on a Career Center school board now.
But you'd have to be appointed by this point.
But you still have to be appointed by the board, yes.
To represent us at DACC?
Absolutely.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yep.
Any other discussion? Thank you, Julie. Vote then, please.
Mr. Bartz,
Yes.
Mrs. Patrick,
Yes.
Mrs. Fiesel,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Brien, Mr. O'Brien, I'm sorry,
Yes.
Ouch.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Evaluation day,
And-
too. Formative assessment.
And that passes 5-0. Item D is the board liaisons, which I mentioned just a few moments ago, and I'll give you the names for that. Our board liaison representative to the Business Advisory Committee would be Mr. O'Brien and myself. Our board liaisons to the Facilities Committee would be Roger Bartz and myself. The representatives to the Finance and Audit Committee would be Mr. Bartz and Mr. O'Brien. Representatives to the Policy Committee would be Ms. Patrick and myself. And representatives to the Advocacy Committee would be Ms. I can't get it out, Mrs. Fiesel and Ms. Patrick. Also, I think that's covered here too. Our representatives to the OSBA, the Student Achievement would be Mendy, the delegate would be myself, the alternate would be Roger, and the legal representative would be Julie. So with that, we have a motion to approve those liaisons to those groups.
I'll make a motion.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion of that? And thank you, everybody, for agreeing to participate in these very important committees. So if you could take the roll, please, Brian.
Mrs. Patrick?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. Bartz?
Yes.
Mrs. Fiesel,
Yes.
and Mr. King.
Yes. So that passes. Item E passes 5-0.
Mr. King, it's going to be good to have 5 board members participate.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. It's going to be very,
Finally,
very
4 years.
excellent condition. And I would offer that item, as a group, to offer items F, which is the establishing the board service fund. Those are expenses that the board would use to pay for fees to go to the annual conference of OSBA, for instance. Approved membership, which is item G, to the Ohio School Board Association for this year. To approve membership in META, M-E-T-A, Solutions for 2016. That's been an ongoing relationship, as well as OSBA. Item I, to approve treasurer authorization for 2016. J, approve superintendent authorization for 2016. K, to approve a purchasing agent for 2016. And finally, item L, to approve the Director of Business and Facilities authorizations for 2016. Can I have a motion for those?
Is
That
it E
group-
through L?
Yes, sir. E through, no, I'm sorry, F through L. F through L.
Did we miss E?
Yeah, we have to do the district organization.
Oh, I sorry, I did miss it. Thank you. We'll come back to that. Go ahead and finish these.
Okay.
We have a motion for that group, which is
F through L.
F through L.
Well,
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, if you take the, did you have a question?
no.
Oh, I thought I heard something. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. Fiesel,
Yes.
Mr. Bartz?
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mrs. Patrick?
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes, and that group passes 5-0. I'm sorry, but item E was the district organizations, very important. Don't mean to overlook that. That is listed on the D. And that includes all of the PTOs, many booster groups, and our district support groups, the Olentangy Education Foundation and the Olentangy Dyslexia Network. A motion to approve those groups?
So moved.
A second?
I'll second.
And any discussion?
I just had a question. With the Liberty ones, why are there some of the sports called out separately than at other schools?
I believe it's because they have, some of their sports have separate 501(c)(3)s, so they stand independent, where like Orange Boosters have one 501(c)(3) for all sports. That's typically why the difference, unless that's different from.
Well, is there
Anybody
any
else's?
benefit to doing that? Because at one time, we tried to clean all of that up. You know, and I understand that the boosters are not part of the organization, because I've been through all of that before. But, I mean, now that I say that, can we even have a say? But at some point,
I think we could encourage them to adopt a certain structure. We can't mandate.
Well, and that is an ongoing discussion.
Okay.
It's decreased. Mr. Meeker is working to bring them all in under his,
Good. Okay.
under a general booster umbrella.
I think he's
Certainly.
more than halved what it was just almost a year ago.
Good. Okay.
And I think, you know, Olentangy's gotten reorganized. They're moving more to that model. Because I think all they have left is their Friends of Football as an outside group. But I'm certainly encouraging in that direction.
Good.
Any other discussion? Do call roll, please.
Mrs. Fiesel,
yes.
Mrs. Patrick?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien?
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes, and that passes likewise 5-0. So we can have a motion to adjourn the organizational meeting, please, before we go into the business meeting.
So moved.
Second,
I'll second.
any discussion? Mr. Bryan. Brian, if you would please call the roll.
Mrs. Feasel,
Yes.
Mrs. Patrick,
Yes.
Mr. Bartz,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes, and that passes 5-0. All righty. At approximately 6:20, we will begin our business meeting for Thursday, January 14th. Could we have a motion then to approve the agenda?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Kern, please, if you'd call the roll.
Mrs. Feasel,
Yes.
Mr. Bartz,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mrs. Patrick,
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes, and the agenda passes 5-0. Item 2 under the business meeting is the board president report. And I thought what I would do this evening is frankly borrow from what's become a nice tradition here at Olentangy, and that's the superintendent's good news report. I thought it might be a good way to start this particular year. First of all, congratulations to Mindy and to Kevin and to Roger for election to the board. And as Julie mentioned, Mindy was wise enough to attend the OSBA session recently. Any comments you'd like to make about that learning session?
Again, thank you for sending me. I attended the Southwestern Conference, which is, we would be part of the Central. And so there were different schools, but it became clear very quickly that we are a role model board. A lot of the examples that they gave, I've just never seen it here. We follow textbook, and we don't have a big division between the community and our Board of Education, and kudos to you all for establishing that, and I'm excited to participate in it.
Very great, thank you. Also, I'd like to say thank you to Kevin and Julie for your recent years of leadership at the board meetings. Very nicely done and very much appreciated. Of course, as we recognize tonight, our many organizations, the many volunteers who support this district. So thank you to all of those people, and look forward to their continuation in those very important volunteer organizations at so many levels. I also like to conclude with the thank yous to Terry Niehaus. She was a very important person for our group. Gosh, I hate to get so emotional sometimes, and I apologize for that. But she really helped our organization over the years in her role as the Secretary of the Superintendent Administration. Did a great job of keeping us informed with information, the agendas, et cetera. And thank her for her service as she's retired. And of course, we would welcome Michelle Cox to that position. I'm sure we'll have established very quickly already a very good working relationship with Michelle, and we look forward to that. Just a final comment. Of course, it's January 2016, it's a new year. But I would prefer to think of this as like a school year. It's a continuation. It's year 15, it's year 16. This is a continuation. It's not stop what we're doing and start over again. It is a continuation of very important groups, very important people working to a continuation in their dedication to the Olentangy schools. I'm very pleased that we just recognized this is going to be a very strong board. There's great expertise, there's great talent, there's very great experience in what these people have brought with their backgrounds, their long-term exposure and relationships with the Olentangy School District. And with a proven track record of our treasurer, and with a proven track record now of our superintendent and the DLT, the district leadership team, who just a little over 100 days now has clearly proven themselves to be an important part of our discussions. And I really look forward to a continuation as we all work to our mission of Olentangy Schools. So thank you, everybody. Superintendent report. Mark, do you have anything for us?
Yes, I do.
I'm surprised.
All right. Is my chair going to be in the way? No. All right. Well, good evening. Thank you all for attending. And it's always great to be back in session. So I also would like to extend my welcome and thank you to Mrs. Patrick, to the board. We're very pleased and honored to have you as a newest board member. To Mr. Bartz and Mr. O'Brien, thank you for your willingness to come back and serve. January is Board Member Appreciation Month. We put out there a plaque for the board members who have been previously on the board of thank you, and we provided everybody with a Olentangy lapel pin that we're giving out to staff members and special friends who have shown their commitment to the district, so it's just a way of honoring your service a little bit. And Ms. Patrick, we got you those flowers too to welcome
They're
you.
so
So,
nice. Thank you.
since you didn't have a plaque, but you know, as I think about the type of courage and commitment it takes to be a school board member, the thanks, the small thanks you get for that is nowhere near enough for what you put yourself in front of. And having the courage and conviction to do it in the environment that we're in right now, at a crucial point in our history, you willingly, the three of you, willingly ran for this school board knowing that we were going to try to build a fourth high school, knowing that we were going to have a March issue on the ballot, and you still willingly stepped forward to take on that challenge because you know how essential those things are to the future of our district. And I truly hope the community appreciates all five of you and your willingness to take this on, because we are clearly at a very important juncture in our future. As again, the result of the March issue will indicate what type of Olentangy schools we're going to have for the next 30 years. I think you've made a wise decision to place the choice in front of our community to put a fourth high school on the ballot. You've made a wise decision to put the permanent improvement part on the ballot so that we can protect the investment. And I think you've made a wise decision to put the necessary operating funds on the ballot for our community to support. So thank you again for that willingness to serve. Moving on to good things, as Mr. King indicated, it's winter play season. There's Olentangy High School will be putting on Almost Maine. Liberty High will be putting on the last 4 years, and Orange High is putting on the Lion King Jr. If you have never had an opportunity to see any of our high school productions, they are just this close to being Broadway. They are simply amazing what those young people put on, so I encourage you to go there. We will be hosting here our second annual Diversity and Inclusion Conference, One Community Building Bridges of Understanding. That session will be February 4th at Liberty High, and then again April 6th at Olentangy High. Again, I strongly encourage the community to come out and take part in that conference. It's been we're very proud of the work that was done with that conference last year, and I'm looking forward to what will happen with it again this year. We just tonight, Olentangy Academy held an open house for potential incoming 8th grade students. I'm proud to say that it was very well attended. There's a lot of interest in that STEM program. It will continue to grow. That's, as we keep saying, part of our package has us purchasing that academy building, and it's proving that it is a good space for us to incubate and grow programs because the interest is there. What we envision long-term is that program going back into the buildings once it reaches a sustainable enrollment level. But the interest for the STEM program certainly is growing, and we're very proud of the program they've put together there.
And is it still on track to add the sophomores next year?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Another upcoming event is our Olentangy Education Foundation Spirit of Community Night, which is March 12th at the Shops at Worthington. That will be, again, we hope to be very well attended. Education Foundation does a great job of supporting teacher grants and innovation and creativity in our district, so we're very appreciative of that. A couple other items that are out there for us is upcoming events. The community will be receiving a winter newsletter here very soon. So we're always happy to share the great news of what's going on in the district. You know, it's hard to believe, but we are underway to plan for next year. Kindergarten registration begins next week. There's a staggered schedule that runs all throughout January. It's just amazing to see the number. We issue these PIN numbers to incoming families and how excited they are to get that PIN and get started with the registration process. Course scheduling is underway at the high school level and also the middle school level. They're selecting their courses already for next year, so we'll be building the schedules and staffing the buildings. And also, now we've been talking about contract negotiations with all three of our associations all year, and we're getting close to that point where we would talk about either extending contracts with our membership, our three memberships, or entering into full-blown negotiations. But we're in that time frame. You know, that's always been part of our plan, what we've been working on all year. It's, you know, it's well known that we extended all three contracts last year to run through the end of this year. So it should be no surprise to anyone that we're entering into contract negotiations. So I'll take any questions you might have. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian, do we have any public participation for general comments or regarding an action item?
No, we do not.
Thank you. We have one action item this evening. It's item 6 on the agenda, the treasurer action item. Would you please present?
Yes, present this evening treasurer action item A. It's approved resolution authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $22,275,000 of bonds for the purpose of currently refunding a portion of the school district's $89,949,954.30 refunding bond series 2006A dated November 9, 2006, and authorizing and approving related matters as stated in Exhibit A. Just some words of note, this will save us approximately $2 million over the life of the bonds. Maturity is 2017, and also maturities way out to 2030 and 32. So,
We have a motion to accept.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
And discussion. Questions for Brian?
So again, just so we're clear,
Yeah.
so there's
Thank you.
no new debt being issued,
Mhm.
and the savings are what you quoted was a net present value of those savings out of the capital budget, not the operating budget. So this will not affect or doesn't help to offset any of the need for the 5.9 levy.
you're correct. Yeah, it's actually out of the bond, not the capital.
Sorry, the bond.
Existing bond millage that we
Bond.
have, yes.
It's like refunding your house, or
Yes.
refinancing your house, is what it's like. So we're refinancing debt because we are getting a better deal.
Yeah.
Right.
This is the
Saving.
portion, if you remember back about a year ago, we did about 112 million at that time. This was this was not in the money per se at that time.
Okay.
We just kept it open, examining, and now it is.
Do you know what the rate spread is? What's the
Yeah.
difference in rates?
Yeah, the rates are better now than it was back then.
No, the pieces you're refunding,
Yeah.
what are they at and what did they get refunded at?
The average
Roughly.
the average coupon was about 4.9% on the old debt.
Okay,
No, I'm sorry, 4.5, and this new one's about 3.7, so.
good.
So this is another example of why we're also able to do no additional millage on the issue that's in March, because of this bond refunding and previous bond refunding. So we keep our bond is like 8.72. I don't want to confuse people, but that's mils of
Yep.
bond debt that we have out there. So this allows us to keep our promise to the voters of no additional millage.
Do we have any more on the horizon or is this pretty much it?
As far as right now, I think this is it with
Okay.
building call dates that we have and the outstanding and the debt we have, so. And-
Good point on the funding part.
And rates look to be moving up maybe in the near future, so
Get them while they're hot.
get them while this might be one of our last
This
chances.
could be it, yeah.
Yeah. course, they've been saying that for a while, so
Right.
we'll see, but it's looking like that, so.
Anything else? Any other comments? Okay, would you please call the roll, Brian?
Mrs. Fiesel,
Yes.
Mrs. Patrick,
Yes.
Mr. Bartz,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes, and item 6, treasure action item passes 5-0. We're going to be going momentarily into executive session. We will not be coming back to this room except to adjourn the meeting. There's no further business of the board after executive session. So thank you very much for your attendance this evening and being with us. So could we have a motion and a second to enter an executive session at 6:35, as permitted by the Ohio Revised Code, to consider the employment of public employees and the Ohio Revised Code to prepare for bargaining sessions with employees. Motion and a second, please.
So moved.
I'll defer to Mrs.
Oh,
Wagner.
second.
And any discussion? Could you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Patrick,
Yes.
Mrs. Fiesel,
Yes.
Mr. Bartz,
Yes.
Mr. O'Brien,
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes. And that motion passes 5-0 as well. So again, thank you very much, everybody, for your attendance.